Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Morning Wood. So glad you could jump up on my wood. It's gonna be a little dick show. It's gonna be a show of dicks. So all we're gonna do is sit around and talk about dicks. Not really, because if we did, mine wouldn't be a long conversation. But as far as announcements, tomorrow on the show. Frank from the gig room, Raisin Girl, and ad friendly as fuck. I think he's gonna be here. I have to make sure, but I think he's gonna be here. So yeah, that's gonna be here tomorrow. As always, ask questions at the end of the show, and if they're not 100% stupid, we'll answer them. Tip during the show. I'll read your messages at the end of the show. Got a small stream go today of $25. If I can make that, it would be awesome. Put some lunch on my table. Anyways, that's all I got to say about that. Let's introduce who's with me today. We got a pretty cool fella here, Milwaukee Atheist, Lawrence. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, buddy. And also joined by my very good friend, very smart fella, Mr. Landon Noll. How you doing?
Hello and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon your time zone and latitude.
Yeah.
You
What
know,
he
I was
said.
I was I was thinking about saying that, but then I forgot.
I
So
don't.
you mentioned the Dick show. I mean, we could talk about Dick Nixon
Yeah.
and old Tricky Dick. That could be,
Uh,
if you're talking about having
my
a Dick show.
my dick does tricks, especially this one where I can fucking Cheerio without breaking it. Yeah. Anyways, um, there's a story I was reading up on this morning. The preacher and his wife are facing multiple charges after baby kidnapped. And South Carolina preacher and his wife have been jailed on separate charges related to an investigation that was triggered by the kidnapping of a 2 month old baby. Citing a Lawrence County Sheriff's release, news outlets report 31-year-old Jennifer Bunting English was arrested September 21st and after the mother of the infant she was babysitting reported her child hadn't been returned and the babysitter stopped communicating. Deputies found her smoking marijuana around the child. She is charged with kidnapping and unlawful conduct toward a child. During the investigations, deputies found her husband, 33-year-old David English, helped her obtain illegal drugs and assaulted her earlier that week, causing significant injuries. He was booked Monday on charges of second degree domestic violence and unlawful conduct toward child. He was unclear whether the couple has lawyers. It says he's a preacher. I don't know.
Well, who needs lawyers when you can have Jesus to forgive you for all that?
This is true.
That it,
Uh,
it sounds like a really strange religious family. I mean, weed and kidnapping. Uh, and it's just seems
Hey,
strange. I haven't heard anything
I,
like that before.
but Lawrence, maybe they're Canadian, eh?
Oh
well,
yeah, yeah, that's
I
true.
think most religious people would be better if they smoked weed.
I think so too.
Yeah,
So when you said that they were smoking weed around a child, I was like, yeah, get that kid hooked now. But then, uh, then
yeah, yeah.
uh, you talked
Go
about
ahead, yeah,
kidnapping. Like that's
yeah.
that's not that great. And then domestic abuse, that's not that great either. Uh,
Yeah, it was I like my weed, but I ain't smoking it around no 2 month old either.
if
That's
I ever have a
just
kid, I'm gonna blow the hookah smoke right in his face.
blow it right up his ass.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, but
I'm
but
gonna use the baby as a bong.
speaking of smoke, our friendly Canadians up north have legalized it, and there was a whole big televised thing of the first
Yeah.
thing at the edge of Nova Scotia having the first legalized sale and so forth. But understand that it's now routine for U.S. Customs officials to ask, "Have you ever smoked pot?"
Mm.
And if you have, they can deny you entrance into the U.S. And
Mm.
they ask, "Have you ever smoked pot?"
Yeah,
Right?
that's
That's
fucked up.
the so
You could,
you
but
know.
you could easily say no.
Well, but you know, it was like it's that test that the South Park guys always get wrong. You know.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's fucked up. I was sitting there thinking this morning about like weird religious shit that weird shit that I done when I was in religion, and I told this story the other day, but I'm gonna kind of tell it again since this is kind of the theme, in a way. Was when I guess was it first started going to church, but I went to my uncle's church. I was a teenager, and it's so fucking crazy. They had, instead of a book burning, they had a CD burning. They told the youth group to bring their CDs and burn them. I didn't want to get rid of none of my good music, but I wanted to be ironic, and that nobody in the church got what I was doing because I'm just
Yes,
smarter
what did
than
you
they
do?
are. I brought a Footloose CD, the soundtrack to Footloose, and burn it. And they did not get the irony of what I was doing, burning the CD to Footloose. They didn't get that the movie's based on that shit. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I thought I was being a smart ass, but nobody got it.
Yeah, or you could, have a reading of Fahrenheit 451,
Yeah.
or you could do the South Park movie about censorship.
Yes.
That's another.
I started to burn like a fucking Christian rock album. But
So how well did CDs burn? I would think you'd shred them instead of burning them.
yeah, they threw them in a big ass bonfire.
If you spin them really fast, they shatter in a really cool way. Yeah, this
And also microwave them too.
They make good colors. They make good colors when you burn them. Yeah.
Good colors,
Yeah, they do. Like,
as opposed to those bad colors.
no, I'm talking about, there's a lot of, when you burn a CD, it like pops off these weird looking little colors.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I was saying good colors. But
I still have a few CDs, but they're like ones where they're autographed and that sort of thing. Although there's a bunch of stuff I guess I should probably check out because I've already digitized them, made backup copies. Right? I'm not stealing.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
And see, I got a conversation a while back about, I was talking about this CD burning, and somebody said, well, see there, Pimpmunk, Christians still do fucked up shit, and you want to bitch about Muslims. I said, yes, true, but Christians are burning CDs when Muslims are burning fucking people. There's a fucking difference. I mean, they're throwing fucking human beings in the fire here. But I bitch about both though. So
Sure.
I just hate it when you have if you're talking about Islam, or even in the same thing with Christianity. If you're talking about Christianity, somebody wants to bring up, well, this was just as bad. But I'm not talking about that at the moment. I'm talking about this motherfucking thing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, I get that shit in my comments section so often. It's like, when are you ever gonna criticize Islam, you pussy? And I'm like, when I have learned much more about it, that's when.
Yeah.
I do find it. I do find that people are easier to criticize Christianity than they are Islam, though.
I mean, yes, but like the thing is, like for me at least personally, I'm not going to like make a video criticizing something that I don't understand well.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So
that's the reason you should never criticize having sex with women. You should never criticize.
No, I should never do it.
So by the way, if you want to learn some, the equivalent sort of things, I suggest that you subscribe to the Apostate Prophet. He's a guy. He was from Turkey and has rejected Islam and talks about it. And it's sort of the similar thing that the way the Milwaukee atheists talk about Christianity or Judaism, because he practices it there. And so check him out.
Yeah, subscribe to his prostate.
The Apostate Prophet.
Yeah, the apostate's prostate. But Yeah. Let me ask you something, Lawrence. You're a young dude. Did you grow up in a religion?
Yeah, kind of. My family's Jewish, so I grew
Mm.
up Jewish, but they like my parents weren't like super into it. Like my grandparents were really the ones that drove it into my skull. My parents didn't really care. They were just like, do whatever you feel like, just don't be an asshole. And I didn't listen to that, but
Okay. My second question is: do you have an irrational fear of ovens?
I think it's perfectly rational, pimp.
um, I find it like talking to a lot of younger atheists these days. That they don't that they didn't go through the same shit that a lot of older atheists did, because a lot of younger atheists never was raised in any kind of religion. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I find that more of the older, like my generation of atheists, actually grew up in like a religious home, or at least surrounded. I didn't grow up in. My mother was not the kind of person that made you go to church or nothing like that. But I had uncles that were that way. So I wasn't forced to go. My mom was always, very liberal about like, okay, you decide if you want to do this, and if you want to do this, you do it and stuff like that. But I know, especially down here in the South, most people were forced to go to church as a child.
Yeah.
So I find it, the different generations. I find it that, like, the younger generation never were forced to do it, which is a good thing. It's a good thing.
I don't know if that's the current thing. Is that a common thing for kids not to be forced to go?
That's what.
Do you
Yeah,
think?
I find it. I've a lot, because I have talked to a lot of younger folks, and I find it not as much that they weren't as forced as much as like my generation and your generation.
What about
Um,
peer group pressure though? Because a lot of also what church does or religious things is build your social circle, right? And so you're kind of
mhm.
addicted to the social circle because that's where the ice cream socials and the Wednesday night blah 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 and youth night thing and all that sort of stuff. They build that community and
Yeah.
and make it difficult for you to leave.
Hmm. I really don't know how the peer stuff is these days. Now my days it was kind of harsh. I mean, because see, and I also find it different to where your location, where you're at too. See, down south is very religious driven, especially in my day was very religious driven. So a lot of kids did feel peer pressure. I don't really know if they feel peer pressure these days. I don't know. Um, I guess I should ask more and find out. I do know that I always tell people this. I don't talk about religion and stuff as much as I used to, but I do. I used to get a lot of questions about it, and I had a lot of young folks come to me like, and some atheists got pissed off at me that I did this, and I don't care because I just think it's common fucking sense to tell young people this. Like I had a 16-year-old come to me one time. Should I tell my parents I'm an atheist? Well, how strict are your parents about religion? Because I don't want you to be homeless. Wait. If your parents are going to kick you out of the fucking home, then not wait till you're eight. You're out on your own to tell them. Because some people are like, no, man, they should be free to tell. No, it's no, no.
Even then, when you're out on your own, families are still around, and you could be a
Yeah,
situation of inviting
yeah,
inviting
exactly.
trouble, right?
Yeah, because coming out of the atheistic closet, especially if you're in a very religious family, it can, people will turn on you. Some people. Luckily, my family and friends weren't as hardcore as I thought they were. I honestly was very nervous that a lot of people would turn on me. Not really so much on me.
Yeah,
There was a couple that did, but I didn't really give a fuck.
yeah.
Because
So
but I'm just such an asshole though.
yeah, you didn't care. But by
No.
the way, I put in the chat the link to the apostate prophet. I mentioned that because if you don't know about Islam, and the Quran. This is a guy, is a scholar, he's a former scholar. He knows a great deal about the religion. He does these sort of studies, kind of like the Milwaukee Atheists do it for the Bible, and you learn all kinds of stuff. But as I say, we focus on Christianity because that's where we were born and raised in that, or Judaism, right?
Exactly. Now, I do believe that, I mean, of course, that's why we focus on certain types more, because we're around it more, and that's what we know. I do believe, though, that if you are going to make the religious thing your shtick, and that's okay, fine, be your shtick, really learn about religion. Don't sit up here and bash religion and not know about it.
Yeah, I am in complete agreement with that.
Yeah, because I see a lot of younger atheists. Well, they suck. Why do they suck? I don't really know. I just know they suck. Well, then you shouldn't say they suck.
Yeah.
Know why they suck. And also, don't be afraid to use your personal experiences. A lot of people say, well, that's anecdotal and all that stuff. Well, that's what we go by. We only know what we've experienced. So, but now also don't depend on that, though.
Don't assume everyone's personal experience is yours.
Exactly. But if you want to talk about religion and stuff, make it personal, because people are going to be, because if they're listening to you, they want to hear your story. And if you make it personal, then they can relate to you. So that's
the other thing is try not to be confrontational about it.
Exactly.
Right? Try not to descend into a one of those
battle.
TV news battle thing where you're arguing back and forth. And now understand that they may want to try and pick the usual fights with you. You don't have to play that game.
And also be open-minded. I'm not saying become religious. I'm just saying listen to their side of the story. Don't just go in saying, okay, I know I'm right, they're wrong, fuck them. You're never going to reach anybody with that kind of idea.
Yeah. I used to be that kind of atheist.
Most young atheists, most
atheists
are.
I mean, you were confrontational. Is that it, or?
Yeah, I was like my first atheist YouTube channel. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was the Russian Atheist, and it was I started that channel in 2009, and I was very confrontational, made blanket assessments about things I didn't understand, and I mean I got for that time it was actually a decently sized following. I got 1,000 something subscribers. So it was decent for the time. But then I just kind of changed what I was doing. There was a whole big story to that. But now it's I find it's much easier to have a conversation with someone and convince people on things using the things they already believe. Because I think the Bible does a great job of disproving itself.
Yes.
So that's why I study it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. By the way, hello there, Raisin Girl, and hello there, Red Eye. That's one of the things why I really like your Atheist Sunday School, is reading the Bible is a pretty good cure for being a Christian.
Yeah, and it's also good because you're actually reading the Bible. You're not just assuming the Bible's wrong. You're reading and you're educating yourself to it. That's the best. If you want to prove it wrong, that is the best way to do it, is to know the stories. Because there's a lot of fucking retarded stories in that book. A lot of retarded stories. There's fucking talking donkeys and shit like that. There's all kinds of weird shit going on. But
you
on the other hand,
accept it on faith.
Yes. Right, or you do the psi thing and presuppose you start with God and everything else follows, and therefore God's true. And that's the other way you do it. Could you see any circumstances for which you would go back to becoming somewhat religious?
Me personally, no.
I don't think there's.
And then, or
spiritual, or that sort of thing.
I know a lot of spiritual atheists, and see, Tim. Now that's the thing I can't relate to because I am 100% pure fucking. I mean, I've always been one to pretty much say, everybody's well, you can't say 100%. Well, I'm 99.9% sure. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty fucking sure there ain't no such thing. Now I can't see myself as a spiritual atheist or anything like that. Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with people who want to, because I know a lot of people who don't believe in God, but are very spiritual. And I'm like, okay, that's your thing. Me personally, no.
Yeah, it's like you do you. I'll probably it's just such because I do talk to spiritual atheists sometimes, and I'm like, it's really weird that the same standards of evidence don't apply, but it's but whatever, you do you. They're not trying to force,
and you
except when they do that. Except when they do.
Yeah. And when you mentioned like when you first started out, you were kind of harsh. I was very harsh. I was even like when I first started doing my videos, dude. I was pretty close to being anti-theist, and I mean I was rough. But then I come to a point that am I really helping anybody, teaching anybody of me not being open? No, I'm not. So I came to this, okay, I'm going to be more mellow about it. And then I was like, okay, everybody else is talking about it. I'm just going to go somewhere else. But I still am passionate about it. When I do see things that really, like if I see religion hurting someone, I'm going after it. But I don't know. I guess I'm just fucking old and don't have the time.
Who you calling old?
Yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, I think one of the things is that there is sort of the spiritual and mystical stuff, and that was something I never really thought much. I even as a kid I didn't give that kind of stuff a lot of credence, and it's kind of funny because I would, on the other hand, do the whole communion thing and all the other stuff, but somehow that was different, right? So the woo-woo stuff was things I rejected because that was, quote, not Christian. But the Christian stuff that's just as woo-woo, I accepted on blind faith. Even the fact that it's kind of funny because when I was a Christian, I had read the Bible twice, plus listened to the Bible being read throughout the whole thing. In fact, the person who did it was on a radio called Family Radio. And a guy named Harold Camping. You might have heard of him. And he would have a thing where he would spend an hour or 2 hours a day reading the Bible. Yeah. And it's kind of funny. I don't know what was going through my head when I read those things, because I wasn't thinking. I don't know. So that's why you're reading it afresh has been a really good eye opener for that. But I guess because I was well steeped in all the quote apologetics, all the excuses, all the other stuff. So we particularly in the case of the American Baptist, one of their creeds is the Old Testament is, that's where it's not so, Jesus wasn't there to fix everything, and now it's all fixed. So the Old Testament is kind of like that's the way it was, and that's why your Christianity, because you have the New Testament, right? Except, of course, the New Testament isn't much better than the Old Testament, right? And things. It just doesn't, the New Testament just doesn't have, things like, tribes going and raping, killing husbands so they can take the daughters to give them to this other tribe. It doesn't have that sort of history stuff there, but
yeah, there's definitely some clearly fucked up things in the New Testament too, like slaves obey your masters.
Yeah, Paul is an ass. Paul is a real pompous ass, right? Someone should go and have kicked that guy in the patootie for some of the stuff that he portrayed. Now, sometimes it's people reading into his stuff, but he was not he was essentially a zealot that got converted from Judaism into Christianity, right? So, yeah, screw that guy.
I think Paul liked to have sex with donkeys too. I'm not sure. But anyway, the talking one. Yeah, Paul was a dick. I mean, they all were dick. Peter was a pretty bastard too.
So the thing, I guess the thing is that I find amazing was the amount of Bible study I did as a Christian. And I'm going to go back to I would like to go back to that, self back in the 60s and 70s and say, are you reading what it is you're reading, right? And so I think that's also whether you're reading it with a critical eye or you're reading it with apologetics, because typically Sunday school is not just people saying, okay, let's go and read the Bible. You are being indoctrinated and taught how to apologize for the bad stuff and pay attention to the good stuff, right? You memorize. People don't memorize the verse about, raping and pillaging. Those are kind of verses that people don't tend to memorize. They tend to memorize the nicer verses, right? But they...
Well, in Sunday schools, like Sunday school class, especially for kids, they have like a certain guideline they go by. They don't talk about the complicated shit. They don't talk about the weird shit. They talk about Jesus is the Lamb of God, stuff like that. The stuff that they can pull people in, because if you start preaching fucking Revelations in Sunday school to kids, they're gonna fucking run out of the goddamn room screaming, ah! I mean, 'cause there's some weird shit going on.
Yep. So in Hebrew school, is there a similar sort of thing where you're reading the Torah and the Mosaic, histories and so forth? Is that done that similar way, or you just pick and choose? How does it?
I mean, I never really went to didn't really do that. But to my understanding, I know that they're supposed to memorize certain parts for their bar or bat mitzvahs. I'm not really sure how that all works out, what they choose and why they choose. Not really 100% certain, but I know that I know that generally when it comes to like scholars, they pretty much memorize the entire Torah, and they memorize a lot of stuff from the Talmud too.
Yeah.
They obviously, you still make mistakes. We're only human, but they like to portray this narrative of we don't ever make mistakes. That's why Josephus was all like, there were no mistakes made in writing this. But that's obviously not true.
Yeah, I mean that's another. Even the Quran is kind of interesting. The mistakes, of course, the apologetics come in there and they say, well, this really meant this, and the language has changed, and then you have a pile of excuses you can come in to excuse the differences.
You're a wrestling fan. Did you know there's an independent wrestler, Lawrence, that goes by the name Josephus?
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, he wrestles in the NWA circuit. He's big old bearded looking motherfucker, kind of like a monster Duck Dynasty guy. But anyway, you like wrestling. I remembered that when you said that. There was also a country singer, Hank Williams Jr. He used to call himself Bocephus.
Bocephus?
Bocephus.
That just sounds stupid. What an idiot.
Yeah. Because Josephus is so much better. But anyways, so I need to go to Jew school.
Now, one of the interesting things that happened while I was in office was there was a land use issue that was appealed to the council, right? The planning commission had approved, and what they approved was adding a library onto a Hebrew school. It was a private school, and it was a former school that had been essentially closed down and was bought by this group to do Hebrew studies, and they wanted to add a library, and the neighbors were objecting to the library. And one of the things is, well, the noise, right? And remember, the person was saying, I was saying, but it's a library, and what's this about noise? And she finally said, well, but they're, and I could tell it's like hurt her to say, but they're Jews, and she was saying, and they're noisy and they do all this chanting and they won't. It's not just a library, it's blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what's, and so I basically played along with it and actually got her into saying things like, well, they have horns, and that's why they have the, it was like medieval crap coming out of this person. Yeah. And it was pretty, so I particularly, when we approved this thing, pretty eviscerated this group of folks that were just being plain idiots. But that got me on target for a group called the Aryan Church of Christ.
Oh,
and those folks are loons.
Do you hold on? Do you mean Aryan as in like the Hitler kind of Aryan, or do you mean Aryan as in the ideology stemming from Arius?
I think it's probably the Hitlerian version of Aryan. I think it's what, given some of the stuff that they would try to leave, and I had to get police protection and all that sort of thing because I made fun of a lady who said that Jews have horns in their head, and that's why they have that little cap on it. Anyway, this is stuff straight out of medieval times, but. And by the way, the thing was approved. So actually, I got on a mailing list for the Aryan Church of Christ and some of that stuff, and then I also got all these other things because of being a friend of there. And I got to show up, and they did a dedication thing. It was a pretty cool sort of thing. But yes, that's neighbors were objecting because they said Jews are very loud in their libraries.
Yeah, Jews are bad. Of all the genres, I like to call them genres of Christianity or Jesus, not really Christianity. The one that I always felt the weirdest was the Mormons, dude. The Mormons,
they're fun.
they got some weird shits going on, bro. And if you ever really, it's been a while since I really delved into any kind of Mormonism shit, but one of my good friends back in the day was a Mormon, and man, they some weird shits. They got their magic underwear and all that stuff, and they got some serious weirdness going on.
And their explanation for why Native Americans have red skin.
Yes, that sort of stuff. But it is kind of funny in some ways that you will see Christians who aren't Mormons ridiculing I guess you're supposed to call them Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints because you're not supposed to call them Mormons, but formerly known as Mormons, folks, and yet they'll defend their stuff, right, with the talking donkeys and that sort of thing. So.
Well, they're all like that. Fuck Islam bashes Christianity bashes them. This all the true Scotsman shit. If you break it down to it, really, you're not a real Christian. I am, but that's like not even as far as extreme as Mormons are. They're like Church of what is it? Church of Christ. Now those some strict motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Those See, I got in this debate with one of them one time, and they don't believe in musical instruments in the church, right? And I said, okay, and I said, why? And she said, well, she looked at me, she said, because they didn't play musical instruments in the church in the biblical days. I said, okay, but did they have air conditioner back then? So if you're just going whatever they had in the church back then, y'all sitting up under the air conditioning shit, and it really pissed her.
And
They
also,
don't think.
the churches, like at least at the time of the a good majority of the New Testament writings, like at least in the early days of Christianity, like when Paul was going around setting up churches, uh, those were like all in people's homes.
Mm.
There wasn't like a congregation for it somewhere. There wasn't an outside building. It was in somebody's house. So unless you're gonna have church in somebody's house,
Yeah, it's a good point.
Skeptical Jesus said the Book of Mormon is just Jesus fan fiction.
It is, dude. It's fuck. I mean, look, what's his name? Joseph Smith, right? This motherfucker was a known con man.
Yeah.
He was a known fucking con man. He was arrested so many times, but yet this, he found a fucking what was it, a blue rock in the woods or some shit? I don't know. It was so weird.
Well, I mean, one of the big things is that whole pearl of great price, where they took a Egypt scroll and Joseph Smith somehow, read the whole thing and interpreted and saying it was Abraham, and a sacrifice thing and all this sort of stuff, which is complete nonsense. But it turned out to be some text, and then of course there's I'm sure there's ways to apologize for just about anything, right? So that's kind of the thing is if you can if you can say, well, it's right and it's a mystery, or you don't understand, or it's beyond you, or you just need to pray to understand. There's other sort of things you can excuse absolutely everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've had people say, "Well, the reason you didn't never get the Bible is because you wasn't ever a true Christian, so you never really understand." I was like, "Well, then why write it at all then? Because isn't that the point of it, is to bring people into God? I mean, if they don't understand it because they're not into God, it's just their arguments are so stupid."
yeah, it was actually really weird because I was talking to this one Christian dude who he's always on campus. He's always like handing out pens, like free pens and stuff. But all the free pens have like Jesus stuff tacked onto them. Uh, and I got to talking to him, and he was calling like some other groups of Christians like they're not true Christians. But then I was like, well, you got to be careful there. That's a no true Scotsman fallacy. And then after I explained, he was like, yeah, I guess that's a good point. And I was like, that has never happened before.
So isn't that guy kind of an institution on your college, on that college campus? He's kind of sets up his little spot. Isn't there? Don't you have some guy that basically loons away?
Oh, it's not that guy. It's a different guy.
Oh, a different guy.
Yeah. Because the guy that we talk about on the show is Jeb. And Jeb is like
Jeb.
fucking nuts. And he's always like such a character too. And he tells stories from when he was younger and more sinful. He always adds like this flavor to it, and he's like really sexist, and like it always comes out. And it's just so entertaining to watch though, like how he says everything. He always has that kind of like preacher evangelical type flair to it.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
And it's just always entertaining and pretty funny. And then even people who were like ostensibly on my side in those discussions with Jeb, like he's the crazy Christian, and then there are like some rational Christians along with everybody else that was talking to him, and even people on my side were like, this isn't real Christianity. And then I had to explain the fallacy to them, and they're like, why are you defending him? And I'm like, I'm not fucking defending him. I'm defending logic.
Yeah. So yeah, I found this on YouTube. There's a number of videos of that guy, Jeb, going away. He's kind of he's a trip, and I guess he's there very often.
Yeah, kind of often, a few times a year.
Yeah. So yeah, there are those institutions there. So in terms of the society today, do you think society is still as religious as it was, 20 years ago, or less, or what do you think? I mean, what's your opinion in terms of, let's say American society as an example?
I think
Well,
less.
yeah, it definitely seems like all statistics show that religiosity is going down.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just. I mean, I think there's probably is about as many people that still claim to believe in God, but it's just the ways of religion has died down. I think a lot. I think there's a lot of people still claim to believe in God, but they aren't. You know, like I know a lot of people who say they believe in God, but don't exactly believe in the Bible anymore. So I think that's what's changed. The people going by the Bible has changed a lot. And I could be wrong, but that's just a personal.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that, and I think it's definitely a good thing that I mean, I think people can obviously believe whatever the hell they want to believe, and I'm not gonna try to stop them from doing that. But I think it's good that even people who aren't atheists are fighting for like secularism. Like, and it's like a friend of mine. He's Jewish, and he's like, hey, get fucking religion out of government. That's fucking stupid. So it's nice to see more of that. Maybe it's just the result of the society becoming more liberal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
but
maybe
religiosity is
sure.
still going down. Or I don't
So
know if
now,
it's. I wouldn't. Maybe I wouldn't say it's going down. I don't know. Maybe people are just more comfortable to actually say that they don't believe. I'm not sure which one it is. Maybe it's a little of both. I don't know.
as Raising Girl, pointed out that there are also places where you get asked, what church do you go to, or often, and some of that is really sort of like saying, what social circles do you hang out in?
It's a culture thing.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the South is in the South is more of a culture thing to go to church and have families. What church you go to? Yeah, I get that, but I have found that of course the past, the history of the South. I have found that there's just as many moronic fucking religious people in California and New York than there is in the South. It's just we get covered more. Yeah. They're all over the fucking world. They just
they're fucking everywhere.
The South is they're afraid to admit it. the Southerners will tell you they go to church, but yeah, that's just my point of view. I find the ignorance is everywhere. And I don't find all religious people stupid, by the way, like some people do. Some people think all religious people are stupid. I don't agree with that. I just think they got some stupid beliefs. But yeah.
So
go ahead.
But in general, they're still on the political level. Religion remains an important factor in one's election, and so you have to be mindful of the religious base if you're trying to get elected.
Yeah, you do, and that's the one thing that I've always pisses me off about religion. They're not they don't have to pay taxes and all this shit because separation of church and state. Yet they still get up there and tell you who to vote for. It's just so fucked up. Yeah, especially here, like I said, in the South, they're more open with it, and they don't really give a shit because nobody stands up against it.
So I just looked up Brother Jeb. I had no idea that he was doing this all around the U.S. He's got a Wikipedia page.
Wow.
This is hysterical.
Wow.
And then there's even a fictional portrayal of him. Smock's character was the basis of the, because that's his name apparently, George Smock. Oh my god, what an awful name. Smock's character was the basis of the 2012 short Battle of the Sects. in which an extreme evangelical preacher visits a university only to be run out by the campus Christians. Oh, this is great. This is fantastic. I didn't know there was so much on this guy. I
Yeah,
just remember talking to this guy and him defending slavery to me. That's what I remember.
So I will put into the list there. That's the link we're talking about, I assume, of Brother Jed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the guy. He's got his staff, his cross
Yeah,
staff, and so forth.
yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of his. But yes, you could take a look at his stuff there. So
Religion, Brother Jed Christian. Oh my God, did he start his own sect? What?
I guess so. Because all the others are missing the are misled,
The
right?
staff. They're missing the staff.
of things.
What a fucking character.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about. I'll look them up later. I'll use that link later.
Anyway, so yeah, there are certainly characters like that around. But as I say, that's it's so there's been you're talking about the South, that get referred to as the Bible Belt. Do you think that's a applies still, or is that sort of former time?
Well, like I said, I think it's because the South is really open about religion. Where other areas there may be as many Christians. I don't know if there is or isn't, to be honest with you. But it's just that down south, they don't no holds bars. They don't give a fuck. They're open with their religion so much.
Yeah, it seems like all the United States, has the U.S. has more churches than trees. But
well, I mean, the Midwest is, as someone pointed out as well, has a lot of religion in its social circles as well.
It does, definitely.
They do.
Yeah. I think just the difference is how loud they are about it, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think because anywhere you go, you see a bunch of churches. I mean, it's Texas is fucking huge in religion. Every 5 seconds you see a billboard for either Jesus or guns. and I mean, it's all they God and shotguns, man. That's all they're worried about in Texas. And then as you get into California and stuff, you see a lot of churches, but you don't see them it's not so blatant out there. They're not just talking about it every 5 seconds.
But it depends on where in California you go, because one of the things that people that associate California with, let's say, San Francisco, California is a huge state that's very diverse, and you have the Bundy types, you have the very strict religious types, you have the Scientologists, you have the Mormons, you have because they got one of those little temple things. You got all the stuff here that and so it's kind of probably if you have an assumption that it's Mississippi and therefore blah, or it's California therefore blah. No, states tend to be more diverse, and California is a very diverse state.
True.
Speaking of religiosity, so there's this guy who drives around in this Christian pimped up car, it's just has a bunch of bumper stickers and writing all over it. That's all super Christian, and everyone that's not Christian is going to hell. And I didn't know that people just called him Car Guy, but apparently his actual moniker is Brother Ron. So if you go on Wikipedia and just look up Brother Ron Milwaukee, you can see pictures of his car, and he drives around in this thing all the time. And he has a megaphone attached to it too. It's just ridiculous.
So
So
you
some of
say
some of
that.
the icons we have here.
So you're talking about brother Ron Milwaukee.
Yeah, yeah. Just if you go on like images, it's not even like pictures of him so much as it is pictures of his
Ah,
car.
car guy.
Yeah.
Raising guys up north, we were always taught it was impolite to openly talk about religion, politics, and finances. Is that the same down there, Pimp? No, it's well, people don't go around talking about their finances so much, but politics and religion is a normal conversation down here. You go into any of these restaurants, you find all these old folks sitting around talking. And the thing about it is, for a long time, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I'd always open my big ass mouth. Like I remember one time I was sitting in a restaurant. There was these old people sitting there talking, and they were just saying some very moronic shit about politics and religion. I just turned around and said, "Y'all know y'all stupid, right?" And I can't do that no more though because it's none of my business. And if they're not sitting there forcing somebody to fucking worship Jesus or vote for Trump, then it's really none of my business. But I used to think it was my business. But yes, they're very open about talking about politics and religions here. They're not really taught not to talk about it there. Now, finances, I've that many people go around telling you they're broke, except me. I'm broke, and that's the reason you should tip today. Got a $25 stream. See how I use that? $25 stream go. It's a small stream go. $25. Help me buy some lunch. So yeah, go ahead. But yeah,
Almost as
conversation
small as
about
Pimp's penis.
yeah, but conversation about God and politics is very common around here. Um,
Yeah,
even
there are a lot of
though
people.
go ahead.
There are a lot of people around here who do try to like stay away from those conversations. They seem like intimidated by them.
Yeah.
Like
Well, that's
it's
the one
gonna be.
thing. Yeah, a lot of people are intimidated by that conversation, and I wish more people were in a way. But that in the South they're not intimidated. That's one thing you can't say about Southern people. It takes a lot to intimidate a Southern person. They go open their fucking mouth, and they don't really give a shit. But it doesn't matter what it's about. They're gonna fucking talk about it if it bothers them.
So as I say, so Pimpmunk, you grew up. Your mom was not pushing religion. You
Mm.
grew up at a culture where religion was kind of the
Yes.
norm, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
and
Absolutely. I had an uncle who was a pastor.
okay,
He,
so that's where the uncle was the one that was.
yeah. He pretty much shoved it down my throat all the time, and it's like either go along with it or be looked at like a fucking heathen. So I just went along with it for the most part as a kid. As I got older, of course I became an asshole and was like, "Fuck all y'all." But yeah.
So Lawrence, were
As it should be.
you were again were you in a community that was really focused on religion, or was it heavily
Oh, not really. I
heavily?
mean, my grandparents, tried to force feed me, all that God stuff, and I mean,
Yeah.
just topics in general.
Mhm.
Uh, but my, but I ended up, falling for it because I was just a kid and like all four of my grandparents were telling me like, "Oh, this stuff is real." Uh, although, actually, I guess three of them because one of my grandparents is an atheist, but that's only like he's still like super into like the culture of Judaism, and he like believes in a historical Moses, and he like kind of half believes the story like that Moses led the slaves out of Egypt, like take out all the mythical stuff, and like that's what he believes. And I'm like, because I want to, you know, tell him why he's wrong because we've learned a lot about that stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's really hard to talk about that stuff when there is kind of like a language barrier, because a lot of the things I talk about when it comes to religion, I never really learned like the Russian translation of some of these things.
Yeah.
So it's hard to like talk to him about like really nitty gritty, detailed stuff, and it's just weird. Uh, to I mean, he's probably an atheist just because he grew up in communist Russia and was like in the military at that time, and uh, it's a really weird. Uh, uh, he's a really weird guy because he grew up being brainwashed by two different ideologies,
Sure.
communism and Judaism.
Yeah.
And it's just so weird, the result.
Commie Jew.
But in some ways, like you're talking about that. That's an example where the culture, the religion and the culture are blended quite, quite a lot. Um, so you have, people that practice the culture of Judaism, and the festivals and the holiday stuff, but they don't take it seriously. That I also know people that are really, they're the Orthodox to the T, and you can't shake their hand. All that's, the whole bit, right? It kind of depends upon but it seems like there are, just like in Christianity, there are, a oftentimes a cultural plane that people rest on, and whether they take it to the next level kind of depends upon circumstance, I suppose.
Yeah.
In Hawaii, there are Native Hawaiians, and there are a lot of people that will go through the Hawaiian culture, the dances, and sort of traditions that they will go through, but they don't actually believe that it's Madame Pele in the Kilauea volcano, blah 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 blah. But on the other hand, they sort of, like one guy said, well, this is like you guys have Santa Claus and a tooth fairy, right? We have these cultural things we do. Yeah, I know it's a volcano and it's lava, but we have this culture around things. Now there are people who are full native who won't even recognize the United States. They won't speak English if they can help it, and they're full on native, and they want to bring back all the traditions and so forth. And for the most part, some people say, well, those guys are nuts, because the whole kapu system, Ilihi and so forth, that was going on there was a pretty corrupt bunch of folks, and no one really wants to go back. Most people don't want to go back to that. But still, they'll teach the dances, they'll teach the language, they'll teach the traditions, even though they know, yes, this boy and this girl that fell in love, and then this guy got turned into the plant, and she got turned into the flower, and all that. They say they know that isn't that, but on the other hand, that's the story that they tell, right? So there's a case where again, there's a cultural base for the religion, and people just don't take it that far.
Yeah. I think that happens in a lot of cultures.
Sure. So maybe when people ask, when people ask about, what church are you going to, they're really sort of saying, what social group, or they want to find out who you are, rather than are you going to church. Now, that the thing, one of the interesting things about in Hawaii is that there's lots of stories, like on a big island, lots of stories and legends about Pele being a wandering woman that comes into a village and asks for some food and some water. And the kind of the legend they talk about is that the people who were nice to her and offered her some food and brought out stuff or invited her into her home and did all those sort of things, then they were nice. And the people that said, get out of here, you bum, so forth, then Pele came in and wiped them out, and so forth is the deal. So there is kind of this notion of be be hospitable to strangers, because you never know, it might be someone, something important. And I mean, there's other reasons why they're hospitable. That's one of the things. On the other hand, if you live there, you're expected to behave in a different way than if you're visiting, right? So visitors are kind of forgiven by some of their transgressions. On the other hand, if you live there, a whole different thing is expected of you in terms of how you behave towards elders, how do you do certain things.
Yeah.
It's an interesting area, particularly I got on like the Big Island, where you have communities where the typical white American is not the majority, right? And you have some of these villages there or areas where you encounter, it's the United States, but you encounter a culture, and it's very friendly on the surface and very inviting. But there's also, just like in the South, there is a way of them being polite and cursing you, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't understand that, and I don't always get those subtle cues, they can sit there and insult you while being as polite as possible. So.
That's cool. I like that though. I like that, because the Southerners are really good at "oh, sweetheart." Most time, if you're called sweetheart down here, you're basically being called a son of a bitch or a motherfucker. Honey, come on, honey. Sweetie.
Bless your heart.
No, bless your heart is a major fucking insult. I'm gonna tell you right now. Bless your heart, it means fuck you up the ass.
Yeah. But the big about this thing is about, yes sir, yes ma'am can be said. Those words can be said and mean lots of things. The similar thing in Hawaiian, there are words where it's how it's said, the context, the intonation can mean a vastly different thing. And if you don't know it, and I don't pretend to know it either, I'm just aware that there are subtleties that I'm not.
But down here in the South, we do that in so many different ways. Not just insults. Like, we have ways of complimenting you that you really don't know you're being complimented. Like if a white dude calls you Bubba down here, that's pretty much him telling you that he loves you. Say that, like, you're my bud. You're one of my. If I say, hey Bubba, I mean that means I like you.
Yes.
So. It ain't, that I'm just a backwards fuck, which I am, but because every family member has someone they call Bubba. I have a cousin Bubba, and so yeah, it's very, we all know somebody named Billy Joe. I also know someone named Bubba, and I had a Billy Joe and a Bubba in my family. So
yeah,
but I have never met a Peggy Sue. So fuck y'all.
You never met a Peggy Sue?
No. I've wanted to my whole life. That's my life's goal, is to meet somebody named Peggy Sue.
I suspect there is. But
when it comes to religion again, I always find it hilarious, because I grew up, the church I belonged to was a non-denominational church. A holiness church, though. They've spoken tongues and all that shit. And I've told the whole tongue talking story, but they practice. They tell you how to practice your tongue, and I noticed that everybody pretty much led their tongues out with the they all had their starter word, as I like to call it. My uncle's was Lashanda Labaha. And he'd always start out with Lashanda Labaha. So I wanted to have it. So I was just basically going to use Japanese vehicles and just switch them up a little bit. Instead of, like Toyota, I was going to say Toyota. And Mitsubishi, yeah, and stuff like that. And so I practiced it, and I was going to change it up. But the day I originally was going to do it, and I was going to debut my words, they actually came out as Toyota and Mitsubishi. That's what it came out. And my friend thought I was making fun of the religion. He was like, why are you making fun of us, man? You pretty much did it yourself when you said Lashana La Baha, dickhead. But anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, they would. I remember looking at like these women that fall out in the spirit, as they call it, passing out in the spirit. And I'd look down and they'd open up one eye just to see if anybody was looking at them. And I used to, and I never understood the whole crying thing in church. It's really big in the holiness church is for people to cry. And I'm like, aren't y'all supposed to be happy? Why y'all sitting there fucking shedding all these goddamn tears? And I watched the dude stick his thumb in his eye one time to make himself cry. I sit there and watched. This motherfucker is literally poking himself in the eye to cry.
Acting.
Yeah, dude. I would have just I'd have figured out a different way. I'd have poked myself in the asshole or something.
So yeah, again, that's part of the culture of stuff. And there are churches that are really into that stuff, and other churches where that just is not done. And so people go and shop around to find a church they feel comfortable, because if they're like uncomfortable because they do too much of this or that type of thing, then and other people will sit there and say, I want to go to a church that's pre-millennial, right? Like they have this revelation thing, and it's pre-millennial and post-millennial, or they'll go and basically have a list of stuff, and so when they move to a new community, they go around and try churches until they find one that's comfortable, where it doesn't conflict too much with how they want to behave in the social circles.
Yeah, I mean that's really a lot of people, and I've always people say, well, I got to find a church I'm comfortable with, but well, if God's so loving, aren't you supposed to feel comfortable in any church? I've always asked them that, and they're like, well, it's different, and no, it ain't different. God's supposed to be loving, so you should be. I mean, like I pretty much got asked not to. I was told by my pastor that I would never preach in his church again because I preached against hate.
You bastard.
Yeah, but what it was, I pretty much called out the richest dude in the church, the biggest collection payer. I pretty much called him out in front of the whole church because I heard him saying nigger this, nigger that, nigger this, nigger that. So the sermon I preached was about hate, and I walked out into the church congregation, stood right beside him, looked down at him and said, if you got hate in your heart, you can't get into the kingdom of heaven. And I could hear the collective gasp in the church. And, he was like, oh, my God. And then the pastor came up and said, I can't talk to his congregation like that ever again.
Yeah, you can't get rid of that tradition. That one's too important.
Yeah, because I believe, because I was at the time a true believer. I was trying to be anyway. And, at the time I was like, well, hate's not good. It shouldn't be Jesus's way. But apparently, if you put a lot of money in the collection plate, it's okay.
Yeah, it's like whatever happened to turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
So I think also that Milo made a good point. In Japan is a significantly secular society, but they have lots of traditions where they will go to temples and shrines because out of the tradition, right? And ancestors and so forth. And that's again an example where the culture and religions are blended. Another thing that you see in Japan is that they're quite willing to try all kinds of religions because they're open to exploring. I guess they're open to exploring different traditions, right? So they'll have somebody where they'll do some, Christian festivals and Buddhist festivals and Shinto festivals and other festivals that they'll do, but it seems like when I observed, it wasn't as religion was traditional, but not necessarily forced into the society like it might be here. So you didn't have the prime minister going and saying, God bless Japan or whatever. Right? That's not sort of what they kind of do. Whereas on the other hand, I wonder if there has ever been a U.S. president who hasn't said, God bless the United States of America. I mean, has there been anyone that didn't do that? Maybe.
I don't know of a single one.
I can't. I don't think so. Honestly. Trump says Trump bless America.
But that's a yeah. So yeah. Other things, I guess that in terms of schools, did you? What did you see the influence of religion in your schools that you went to? I'm talking about, like, let's say, as a young kid.
Not really. And see, a lot of people thought that I probably was, I seen a lot because I was in the South. Not in my school district, not so much. It wasn't really that bad. They had prayer in school, but it was they. But our school was one of the early schools that actually started to where, uh, they they'd have their own little groups. They'd go and pray in their own groups. It wasn't over the intercom or anything like that. And I'm totally okay if a bunch of teenagers, a bunch of kids want to get together and go into a classroom and pray together. That's fine. Just don't make every other kid do it. And they didn't at my school. Now, I heard of other schools that did, but at my school, they didn't. They had their own little groups. They'd go off and pray together. So, yeah.
Yeah, mine wasn't really that much different. Aside from like God bless America written everywhere, but that's just to be expected. Yeah. There really wasn't much. There were some teachers though that I thought it was pretty clear that they were pushing some agenda. There was this really interesting time in I think it was a sociology class. And the first day, the teacher like wrote good and bad on the board, and he told students to go up and write like one part of society they think is good and another part that they thought was bad. And I put religion on the bad side. and the thing is, he was perfectly fine with everything else on that board. But then he looked at that one and he was like, I found this one really interesting. And he pointed at religion and said, yeah, this one, did you mean to put that on the good side? And I'm like, no, I certainly did not mean to put that on the good side. So we got into like this argument about it. And he was like trying to argue like, and the thing is, I gave an example of why I thought religion was harmful. And I said indoctrination. And then he assumed my entire argument was about indoctrination, and that was the only thing I didn't like about it. And I had to clarify, like, no, that's just an example. That is one of many things I think is wrong with religion. I mean, it kind of fizzled out after like a 10-minute back and forth between me and the teacher. But he was always, trying to push this whole like, oh, God and society is good kind of thing throughout the whole class. Like he wasn't like super overt about it, but like little things here and there. My astronomy teacher, actually, Landon, you'll get a kick out of this. My astronomy teacher in college was like pushing, like, because I've been in like this community for so long, I can recognize like little things that hint towards an agenda push, especially when it comes to religion. And he was talking about how like the astronomically low chances that everything would work out this way, and how perfect we are of like how we're in the perfect spot, and how like it's just so amazing. And it's like I fucking know he's going for the ID angle. Like I fucking know it. Yeah. So I just like left that class. I was like, I am not with this motherfucker. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean that's so there are people that in education that say, I'm not going to be overt, I'm just going to plant the seed. Right? Yeah. That's what they talk about. They plant the seed and see if the spirit lets it grow. That's sort of so that's probably what you were seeing, Lawrence, as somebody that was doing these sorts of things.
They were just planting. They were putting their seed in you, Lawrence.
Nothing new.
But yeah, that's a big deal. Now, of course, there was teachers and their own individual little agendas in my school. I remember I had a science teacher, and it was so weird. It was a science teacher always pushing. They always want to pray and with the kids and do shit. And it turned out years later that he not only did he pray with some of the teenage boys, he also sucked their dicks. So yeah,
That's not funny. I'm sorry.
it is kind of funny though.
The way you said it.
They let the spirit flow.
Yeah, they like to plant his seed in them too.
Planted seed, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah.
But
so
that's-
there was that.
That is a thing where you find, politicians that are really overtly religious and then get caught doing something. Or they're
Ted
compensating.
Haggard is completely heterosexual. Ted Haggard is completely heterosexual.
Yes.
Glory, Howie Blue.
A
Yeah.
lot of cases, though. Yeah, that's true. Though a lot of cases, when you see someone who's just so hardcore against it, they usually have a dick in their ass on Saturday nights. This is true. I know I do, but I like to plant my seed in a few fellas too.
But that's a big thing. That's. I mean,
that's what
again, I think that, and I guess it's compensating. Again, they're trying to.
Yeah.
They feel guilty about what they're doing, so they compensate by then being religious.
Yeah, very much
They
so.
ask for forgiveness, and then they become hyper religious, and then they fall back on their old ways. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the thing about it is, like with me growing up, like I said, I was always one of the reasons I fell into religion. I wanted to talk about this is because I think a lot of people fall in religion is because they were looking for something. Because I was messed up as a kid, right? I was raped as a child, and I needed answers. I needed something. I needed to know why this happened to me, and so I fell back into religion, and it did. And then that's one of the reasons I got out of religion is when I started reading the Bible and really learned that, why would God let a 10-year-old get raped? It doesn't make much sense. But I think that's the thing. It's a crutch to most people, and that's the reason most people get into religion. But what we got to do, if you really want to change the world, you need to, instead of jumping on these religious people, because you got to understand, that's what you got to understand at first. They're looking for something to lean on. They need help. A lot of people are getting into religion because they need help. Instead of kicking the crutch out from under them, offer them another crutch. Offer them help. Don't just be a dick to them because they are just looking for answers. And if you're an asshole to them, then, all you're going to do is drive them deeper into it.
Yeah, you're not gonna. I've learned that you don't really get anywhere with that. So there's like I was talking about Pen Guy earlier. Like I can actually have a decent discussion with the guy because he's not as crazy as Jeb, and he's generally a nicer person. And this kind of happens a lot on my channel, and just I guess with me in general, where he was like, if somebody didn't know you were an atheist, you sound a lot like a theologian. Because like when I'm talking about doctrine, like I have like some internal understanding of it, like within its own context. But it's really funny when you were when you're talking about like what have you done to deserve this, if you were Jewish, or if you just read like Deuteronomy about like what have you done to deserve something bad that has happened to you, it's not worshiping properly. One of my favorite chapters, because it's just so vivid and intense, is Deuteronomy 28. It gives like some boring blessings, but then it gives like this list of curses, like things that will happen to you if you don't obey God properly. And I just want to like read this. This is from Deuteronomy 28:53. Because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege, and they were saying like previously like you will get sieged. Because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege, you will eat the fruit of your womb, the flesh of the sons and daughters the Lord has given you. Even the most gentle and sensitive man among you will have no compassion on his own brother or the wife he loves or his surviving children, and he will not give he will not give to one of them any of the flesh of his children that he is eating. It will it will be all he has left because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of all your cities.
Wow.
And then later it says that God will enjoy like doing all these things to you just as he enjoyed freeing you. So it's some crazy fucking shit.
Yeah,
And people pass over it.
Yeah, for example, you know the whole thing about the Battle of Gibeah, where the tribe of Benjamin, there's some people there that ended up raping a concubine of the tribe of Levi, right? So the Levites had essentially let's call them prostitutes, right? And these group of people raped them, and the whole other tribes got together and attacked the tribe of Benjamin and nearly killed them, except there were 600 people who sort of hid out in caves. And they decided to let those 600 men carry on the tribe of Benjamin, so they wouldn't essentially. But no one wanted to give them marry their daughters to them. So, because by the way, wiping out means killing all the women and children and of the tribe. I mean, so it wasn't the dudes that raped the concubine of the priest tribe. It was, we're going to go and kill the women and children of that tribe because of this. And so anyway, so these 600 men, they decided, okay, you can carry on, but we're not going to give you any of our daughters in marriage because they vowed not to. So what they did was they found, they provided wives by killing men of the tribe of Mechar had not shown concern for the lost tribe of Benjamin. So a group of Benjamites raped the concubines of the priest tribes, and then they went and judgment goes and wipes out the tribe except for 600. But there's this other group that didn't feel so bad about the fate of that tribe, so they went and killed those men, and then took the 600 virgin women from the tribe and gave them in marriage. But that was actually, they already found 400 virgin women to give. Mm-hmm. So the other what did they do with the other 200? Well, the other 200 remaining were out of wives, so they agreed that what they could do is during a festival, they could hide in vineyards and wait for young unmarried women to come out and dance and grab them and rape them and then make them their wives, right?
Rape someone.
And this is if you don't believe me, this is like Judges 19, chapter 19, 20, 21. It's really
crazy,
messed up.
Yeah. I think
it goes on and on.
I think it actually got started not because of the multiple concubines being raped. It was because one. There was this one Levite prostitute who got raped, and the dude cut up her body and shit.
So it was really gruesome.
The guy who, not even the guy doing the raping, she was sleeping outside or something, and there were some guys that raped her, and then the Levite who was staying in the house that they were staying at went outside the next morning, saw that she was dead, cut up her body, and had all the pieces dispersed among.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they cut her up into 12 pieces and sent them through the tribe.
Yeah,
and that got people pissed off. And
yeah,
yeah. I mean, he was it was almost like he's a Jeffrey Dahmer type, weird stuff. But again, go and check out that stuff. You can read some of these things.
Now, you mentioned the book of Deuteronomy. It reminded me of one of the very first big church Bible studies I was a part of. We were studying Deuteronomy, and they asked me to read some out of the book of Deuteronomy. Well, that whole week, hold up a second.
but yes, it's sort of that's why we have this thing, hashtag blame the Bible,
Yep.
because
Hashtag blame the Bible.
but so so
Sorry about that.
in the go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that the whole week I knew I was gonna read out of Deuteronomy, but I went around making jokes all week, calling it "doo doo right on me." That's what I kept saying. That I was telling her. Well, the night I was leading the Bible study, I said, "Okay, tonight we're reading out of "doo doo right on me." I said that, and I didn't mean to, and everybody was like, "Oh, you asshole!" But yeah, that was a "doo doo right on me."
And did it?
It did a lot. There's a lot of scat in the Bible. The Bible is a whole book of scat. Scat man.
Filled with bull scat.
But it's scat. I tell you what, go ahead. We're gonna end to 10 minutes early today, or yeah. So around 11:30, we're gonna start taking Q&A, or 11:35, something like that. So go ahead and finish what you were gonna say, Landon. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying that's that's an example of something recently, and I remember reading about this, but when it was steeped in Christianity, I had all the apologies about this sort of thing, right? And as I say, that you can justify, just about anything, right? And
Yes, sir.
there's different ways to give excuses for that thing, but. Like I said, I put the link. In the chat. You can see the reference to the stuff. You can see the chapters I said, and you actually read it yourself. And
Lawrence said he'll do right on you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you should check out these folks that they're Milwaukee Atheists. They do some very interesting scholarship on stuff like the origins of the Bible, or Council of Nicaea, and some of these other things that are very important in the history of Christianity.
Yeah, very entertaining.
I think that stuff is really important to learn. Actually, Jeb, when I was talking to him, and I was asking him about his views on the Trinity, he's like, the Council of Nicaea solved that, and I'm like, they didn't solve it. The council came to a decision. But the Arians were still around. That was the big problem of
Yes.
That was a big problem with them. They were still around. I forget where Arius moved, but it became like a staple of that region.
So briefly, what's the difference between what Arius was promoting and what the council decided?
So
what's the big?
The council decided definitely closer to. I forget the specific view that Trinitarian one was called. It was it Montanism, I think?
Yeah, I think.
I don't remember which one it was, but it was so Arianism. Arius proposed that Jesus was a human. He was just like the most perfect human. He was God's most perfect creature. So he didn't think of Jesus as being divine. Which was a problem. A lot of people disagreed with that. But they ended up agreeing with, I think it was Alexander of Alexandria. I think they ended up agreeing with his view. And and it's basically the whole they're made of the same substance, I guess, and they existed together, like God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit. So they kind of it's a really weird rationalization, but when they came down to arguing Scripture, I guess they found more support for that view. But yeah, Arius was excommunicated.
And so Arius' big thing was that Christ was a perfect person, but he was not.
Yeah. Not God.
He wasn't
was,
God.
Yeah. Now the church, it depends on where you went, but most of the churches I went to believed that in the unity, I guess, is all in, Jesus was God, because they pretty much take it out of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word is Jesus Christ. That's where they get that from. So, yeah, but
that and
go ahead.
There was also a later addition to the text. 1 John 5:7-8. Right in like spanning those two verses, is the Johannine comma, and that's the only place in the Bible that explicitly outlines the Trinity doctrine. That these three are one. That's the only place it happens. Otherwise, Christians were just left to their own. They were left on their own to try to figure out Christology. But that was a later addition.
So the comma is where someone, they thought, basically it said comma, blah, 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 these three are one type of thing. That's the Johannine.
There's a couple of things in the Bible, like, you see me, you see my Father. But that could mean so many different...
Yeah, exactly. So the comma was the only one that explicitly outlined the Trinity doctrine.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so important. But the thing is, it shouldn't be there. It was like in a commentary, added as a marginal note in the 4th century. That's the oldest one we could find, but it was in Latin, and it was in a marginal note. So it's just like somebody's fucking commentary on it, and then that became like really important, but it only became actually placed into Bibles later.
The original text said Brett Keane is Jesus Christ.
Oh, Brett Keane.
Yeah.
Canaanites. That's where Canaanites come from.
So this Trinity stuff must drive the monotheists, some monotheists crazy. I imagine, for example, in terms of in there because I know what you're supposed to do with apologetics is say, well, it's like water where you have ice and liquid water and steam, but they're all the same substance. Blah blah blah. They use that apologetic stuff, but for the monotheists to say, well, we're going to have one, but it's just like different forms.
So the issue, like every single one of the views on the Trinity has been like debated to an exhaustive point, and there are arguments against every single one of them because every single one of them doesn't quite make sense. Like in the issue of like different in the issue of different modes, I think that was modalism. The Bible also says that God is unchanging, so you can't change a mode, you can't change like a state that you're in, because that would be God changing.
Yeah.
Then they say like, oh, well, changing in substance, and it's like, well, what do you mean by substance? And then like they had a Montanism, which suggested like this procession, where it's like there's the Father, and then Jesus or the Christ was made out of the substance of the Father, but then it's like, well, God's indivisible because it says God is one. So there's a lot of like little things that have permeated this debate, and like now you can't understand it. You just can't. If you think you understand the Trinity, you don't understand the Trinity.
I understand it.
You don't understand it.
Fuck you in your butt. Post Malone. A lot of people say you look like Post Malone.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. Anyways, I did get a $2 tip from somebody. I won't say their name. What does it say? It said, have some McDonald's. And they gave me $2. Nigga, what McDonald's you going to? That's a cheap-ass McDonald's.
But thank you very much for the $2. I'm gonna turn it in.
That's two.
I will turn it into 4.
Now all we need is $23 to reach my stream goal.
Are cheeseburgers $1? I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat. I don't have that. But
at McDonald's, yeah, they are.
I have no idea what a McDonald's hamburger costs. So
yeah, but Landon is doubling on October 28th. He's doubling every tip that's made. So if I make my stream go 25, he'll give me 50 on October 28th for it.
Yep.
And I do need to make because the money I make right now goes to like living, like day to day living, and the money he gives is going to go to pay off my mom's automobile, so that won't be on. Uh, that knocks a
Yeah.
big payment off every month, and so that's cool. And also, motherfuckers need to remember, next month, November, 28 days of Pimpmunk. You better be getting your goddamn birthday money ready
Yeah.
to pay for my goddamn birthday presents. But
Yep.
anyway, we're gonna
Yep.
go ahead and we're gonna start taking Q&A because we're gonna end it, like I said, about 10 or 15 minutes early today. Because I'm gonna hopefully I make some money, go buy some lunch for the family. But because I'm a broke motherfucking honky right now. Anyways, if you got questions, please ask now.
And
Or
while
forever.
we're waiting for questions, I picked this up because I was buying a friend like a birthday present recently, and I was like,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'll buy Christmas presents too, because they just do the whole gift giving thing, and I'm like, fine, whatever, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So, since it's not even December yet, I still have this book that I'm going to give to a friend, but I'm just kind of looking through it. It's How to Archer, the ultimate guide to espionage and style and women and also cocktails ever written.
What?
And yeah, by Sterling Archer. So
Wow.
and,
As in how to be this person.
yeah. And it's I don't know if you guys watch Archer, but it's a fantastic show. So let's look at How to Archer. Let's look at night vision goggles.
Okay.
Love the night vision goggles. They are fantastic in the field, obviously. But what I really like to do is put them on and sneak into Woodhouse's room. Woodhouse is his butler. Sneak into Woodhouse's room while he's asleep. Then I just sit by his bed and wait. But never for very long, because since he's 1,000 years old, he gets up about 50 times a night to pee. Then he wakes
Yep.
up to see these glowing green orbs staring at him, which literally scares the piss out of him. And there's a citation to it too. When he asks me what I'm doing, I say nothing. Everything is fine. Go back to sleep, Woodhouse. Everything is fine. And then just under this,
Wow.
X-ray specs, not a real thing. Grow up.
Damn.
So
Yes,
it's a
yes,
very
yes.
amusing book.
I do remember the comic books that had the thing in the back where you could buy the X-ray
Oh yeah.
goggles. I never knew anyone who actually went out and bought one of those.
Yeah, me neither.
I expect you could find them on eBay or something like that for there. But it's like it always would say allow 4 to 6 weeks
For delivery.
for delivery. Void where prohibited, taxed, or licensed.
Yeah. You ever get to sea monkeys? Or whatever.
No,
they're
I know.
called?
I knew somebody who
never did.
who did, but they put the sea monkeys into the tank and the fish ate them.
Oh, not a good thing to do for your monkeys. Fish will eat your monkeys.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, what questions do the vast audience out there have for us?
I don't know. We need questions. We need tips. Motherfuckers, we need tips.
Raisin Girl likes sea monkeys. Did you have sea monkeys? Raisin Girl was a.
I want to see a Raisin Girls monkey.
No, she said CSEA, not SEE.
I want to put my junkie in her monkey. Oh, yeah.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Let's see. What else does How to Archer have for us? Let's see. Dead drop. A dead drop is a secret location that makes it possible for 2 or more agents to exchange information without having to meet in person. One agent places the information in the dead drop, for example, a mailbox. He then uses a prearranged signal to alert a second agent that a drop has been made. For example, a small red flag on the outside of the. God damn it! An hour of research to basically just learn how the U.S. Postal Service works.
Damn. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Crazy. God damn my legs.
So Raisin Girl had sea monkeys several times, according to her. So
Yeah,
now we know
I
something
got
about
some.
Raisin.
I had some when I was a kid. Didn't work out so well for me. I was expecting them to actually be like they wasn't look like on the package. You know, they had the fucking Sea Monkey King with the fucking, and it just didn't work like that.
So under fighting styles, capoeira, Brazilian martial art combining hand-to-hand combat with music and dance. Seriously, it's essentially samba crumping. I don't get it, didn't train in it, but it makes me wonder who could make a street fight sexier than the Brazilians. Answer,
Yeah.
some other even sexier Brazilians.
Yep.
I like a Brazilian wax vagina.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
So Bunny suggests that she always wanted some. I assume you're referring to sea monkeys as opposed to like X-ray goggles.
Yeah, I think she's talking about. I think she's talking about the sea monkey.
So someone could get Bunny some sea monkeys.
Yeah,
I'm sure you could still buy them.
my penis is the size of a sea monkey. It can swim in
Oh,
your
that's
tank.
sad.
Yeah, I can believe that.
I can. My dick looks like a postage stamp. It's weird.
Whose postage stamp is it? It's one of the forever postage stamps, or is it like have a
It's the
author
Elvis
or something on
Presley
it?
version.
Okay.
And all you gotta do is lick it. That's all you gotta do. Anyways, if you got questions, please ask now, because like I said, we're gonna end a little early today, about 10 minutes early. And also, please tip if you can, because I sounded like I was joking earlier, but I really am gonna buy food with it. Joshua DeForge, how you doing, buddy? Hope y'all doing well. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Like I said, we did a little something. We talked about religion today. We wanted to just have like a little conversation like we did. It was a good show. It was fun. I'm glad you guys joined me. It was a good time.
And we talked about Brian Shrimp too.
Yes. And we did not mention how Lawrence has an addiction to sniffing butt.
I did not release
But
that information
what?
publicly.
Sniffing butt what?
Sniffing butt hair.
Oh.
That's my
He-
least favorite part of butt sniffing.
Yeah, my favorite part is a fresh farted butted. A fresh fart butt.
So, just to let you know, you should be aware that they're about ready to launch the probe to Mercury, the European Space Agency. It's going to launch on October 20th, and check out what the ESA is doing. They even have a very, very cute little cartoon with because there'll be 2 probes orbiting Mercury, and that's a big thing because Mercury is a really it's a really puzzling planet, and this is going to give us hopefully some more answers on about
probing.
that closest planet to the sun.
Rose asks, "What do you think is I think it's the most crazy branch of Christianity is to all the guests." Well, I'll answer it. I think they all have its own version of crazy. I think they're all crazy, but I honestly believe that if you want to really break it down, if you're talking about Jesus believers only, then I'm gonna go with the Jehovah's Witnesses.
I might put the Branch Davidians into that.
Well, there you go.
That thing too, but again, at some point when it's crazy enough, it's hard to compare, right?
Yeah.
Because Jehovah's Witnesses are certainly, there isn't really a single evaluation function. It's a multivariant thing. What do you think, Lawrence?
I mean, Mormons are kind of balls to the wall stuff
I was
too.
gonna say the Jehovah's are Mormons, but now you want to break it down. If it isn't just Jesus believers, I think one of the weirdest and craziest religions is without a doubt Scientology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's loon to the.
So I think when it comes to Christians, I don't know if I would I don't even know if I would necessarily call a certain sect the craziest, but I do think KJV onlyists are
Yeah.
absolute garbage. And the thing is, the pen guy, we actually had a really long discussion about how we agree on that. So we just spent a good hour railing against them, because it's just fucking stupid. You fucking think God revealed his word in English to fucking Moses? Fucking, that's so fucking dumb. But yeah, like it's a bad translation. It has a lot of textual errors.
What's that one preacher's name out of Arizona? He's the one that prayed for Obama's death and
Yeah.
for mass murder of homosexuals. It's Stephen something. Fuck. What's his name?
Yeah.
Help me out, chat
But-
room. Stephen something. That motherfucker. He's a King James Version only Bible guy.
But for example,
fucking
this last
infuriating.
Milwaukee Atheist Sunday School thing, you found a case where there was a very big there was a discrepancy between what the King James Version did about a 3 bowls versus a 3-year-old bowl type of thing, and
Hey, I have 3
stuff like
balls.
that.
Yeah, there was like some translations said that for a sacrifice they were taking, or no, they were taking 3 bulls with them, and then another translation said that they took 1 3-year-old bull. And like those are fairly different, and I think it would kind of matter to the Levitical priests, or the Aaronid priests, whatever you want to call them, because that was pretty important stuff for them. So it's just really, really interesting to see that kind of error in translation. There was also I forget the verse, but they were talking about how a certain group of people would die. Like in one translation it said like they were put to the sword, and then I forget what it said in the other ones, but I remember mine being vastly different than some of the other translations we were using.
Okay.
So Rose asked about, have you heard of the World Mission Society Church of God?
No, I've not heard of this. Doesn't sound familiar anyway.
And this is one of those. There is a group that's known. I think they're essentially they're a religious movement or a cult that came out of South Korea, as I recall.
Yeah.
And that it had something about I remember there was something weird about a God, the Mother, and Christ, the thing, and this South Korean woman restoring the true early church, and it's a really, really odd form of stuff. And so there's a lot of practices they have that's really quite unusual. But again, it's out of it's a South Korean set. I remember, for example, they had things like, if I recall correctly, they said that prayer has to be done in the name of the Holy Spirit, somebody Hong. And you're supposed to, bunch of stuff like that.
Oh, and somebody said it was Steven Anderson. That's right. Yeah, that's who I was trying to think of earlier. That dude's fucking crazy.
Here is there's actually a Wikipedia page about their stuff. It says that they have 1.7 million members and 2,200 churches in 150 countries.
Okay.
So
I don't know much about them. I never really. But that's like there's a lot of different so-called branches of Jesus type religion that I didn't really know a lot about until later on. Like the Salvation Army, those are some strict motherfuckers. Those are pretty harsh people.
But also, was it that Sang Young Moon guy was another one of the Korean preachers that would have these mass marriages?
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of fucked up. But like I said, if you want to, when we talk about religion, we mostly talked about, Christianity today. But I still say one of the oddest fucking bunches of people is Scientology. Those fucking people are just so weird.
Yeah, watch the South Park episode about it. It's
and what's that documentary? There's also a documentary that's very good.
I can't think of it. I think it's called Going Clear.
Yeah,
Going Clear. Yeah,
it's a very good documentary, man. And I would definitely suggest if you want to know anything about that religion, look that up because that is.
What are the impacts that's had on both the South Park episode as well as the Going Clear documentary? Is that Scientologists used to be very big into the early internet and communicating as a way of recruiting people. And now they encourage people to avoid social media because...
Yeah. Because
people are onto your crazy shit.
Yeah, people...
Yes.
Wait a minute, they're discovering that we're fucking nuts. Yeah, that's basic, but that is true though. They used to very much promote the internet. Now they're not. That's like that one actress. What's her name? Leah Remini or whatever her name is. She came out. Yeah, she came out really strong against it. And there's websites you can look it up where they nothing but dedicated to her and they got her picture up saying this is the face of evil. Because she spoke out against the religion. So yeah, they're fucked up, dude. And it's a lot more darker than you think too. At first glance, you think they're just a bunch of little pet coon crazy motherfuckers. But once you really start getting into it, you realize there's some twisted shit happening in this religion.
I think it's a Portuguese based sect. It's called like Iglesia y Cristo or something like that. My friend Joe was part of it. It's a cult, so he was part of it. Like, cause he wasn't really like super in, like went back when he was like religious. He wasn't really super into any particular thing. But then he started dating this girl who was part of this cult. So then he joined the cult, and then he was in it for a while, and now he's out of it. And he still keeps up to date with all the crazy shit that they're doing. Like, there's one guy who like started criticizing the church after he left, and they ran him out of the country, and he's like hiding in fucking Canada. Like, they're after him and his fucking family.
Got a $4 tip from Anonymous. Thank you, Anonymous.
Thank you, Anonymous. We appreciate that. I'll turn it into 8.
Yeah, it's $6 on a $25 stream. Go, god damn it, we need to make more. We ain't got but a few minutes though. Do it now, or Lawrence will die.
That means don't do it. Fucking let me die.
Don't let him die. don't let him die.
No, we need to have him for the next for the next Sunday school show. So, any other questions in the chat?
Yeah, why are you so gay, Landon? Nobody asked that. I did.
I got one. I got one from last night. Why are you so fat, Pimp?
Oh yeah. Because I ate. That's just a bad troll question, though.
Yeah.
That's what I told him last time. It's because I ate, you dumb fucker.
I mean, if you're gonna troll, be original.
At least be clever, or be funny.
When has a troll come and said, Pimpmunk has lost almost all of his weight and is thin as a rail?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, be creative if you're going to troll.
Or
don't troll at all.
Yeah. One of the worst trolls ever, though, is the dude that actually did all this research. He was going to dox me. He came in and he said, hey, everybody, Pimpmunk's real name is John Crawley. And somebody in the chat room said, yeah, it's in his About Me page. So this motherfucker went through all this work to find my name, and all he had to do was read my About Me page, where it says John Crawley, a.k.a. Pimpmunk.
It really does not take much effort to learn that.
It's so fucking stupid. But that's like one night, I doxed myself. I got drunk and I Google Map myself. But I don't live there anymore, so yeah, it don't matter. I did then.
Well, Adam E., being a vegetarian, I would not know the answer to your question. So,
Bunny's trying to save your
oh,
life. She's telling people to save
pest-
MA tip.
yes.
We need to seriously make more. I'm gonna have to make an early withdrawal from you, Landon, or something. I'm kidding. Um, shit. Anyways, I guess it's time to go because we got. Well,
I mean, I am in the process of trying to collect those funds. So we'll have a. I mean, I fully expect to have it all available on my birthday. So.
yeah, that's cool. But if you want to throw early withdrawal, we can do some of that too. Anyways, I'll tell you what. Since it's only 4 minutes out, we'll go ahead and finish the 2 hours. And like I said, guys, yesterday I explained this again. Next week I'll start back the post shows fully. Right now, if you understood the pain I'm going through right now, you'll understand why I can only do so much at a time. I'm dealing with some serious health issues right now, and it's just that's one reason I haven't got the OBS running and got my room straight yet, because this as soon as this is all starts getting really better, everything will start looking better. I've already got a couple of ideas for segments. I'm going to do a segment called Pink Slip, where me and the guest will be giving like certain people certain like for example Susan Wojcicki here in YouTube. We're gonna be giving her a fucking pink slip. You're fired, bitch. And we're gonna be doing it for different whatever you want to fire somebody from. I thought that would be a good statement. We're gonna do spilling the tea, which is basically it's like an onion. You know what onion is, right? Fake news, but it's gonna be the onion version of drama alert. I'm going to be doing a fake version of Drama Alert where, yeah, it's going to be that. And then I got a couple other ideas.
So would you be demonetized if I said that I talked to the founders about firing Susan?
I hope not. Do it. I'm already demonetized. Fuck them. I don't even try to monetize. I don't even try to monetize anymore.
Allegedly. No, I think... I really think that, from a performance point of view, that YouTube needs to have some new direction. Yes. Let's put it that way.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt, something's wrong. But So
hopefully you can get your legs better so that you can get the machine back there up, so you can start doing Twitch and some of those other bits of things. Does it help when you put your legs up? Does that sort of help things at all? Or?
Yeah, it does a little, but the thing about it is my leg starts cramping really easy right now. But it's getting there. It'll eventually get better. The right leg's healed up pretty good. It's still got some stuff going on, but not as bad. The left leg's got some serious fucking issues. And if it don't get any better, I'm going to have to go back to the hospital. I'm afraid this time they will put me in, though. But it is showing signs. Part of it is showing signs of getting better. So just going to have to, work out, see what happens. I'm hoping it's way better by next month because supposed to go to Green Bay next month for my trip. That's another thing. I got to earn some extra funds for that shit because, the room's so expensive.
Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
You're going to go and be able to see this guy squeal like a fan.
Yes. I will be squealing like a big fat bitch in cold weather.
But that's why you got to get you got to also get some funds to be able to get your phone, all that sort of stuff because we want to experience vicariously.
Yeah, because the goddamn hotel room, my Patreon don't even cover it. It's so fucking expensive. It's crazy.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it's a goddamn Motel 6 too.
That's fucked up.
but it's during football season, so it don't look like we're gonna make that go. That sucks balls because I really needed to make that go today. But that's okay. It happens. We're 1 minute out. Well, no, we're 12 o'clock now. So thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you too for joining me. And
you're welcome kindly.
Yeah, and you can still tip if you want. I'll thank you when I come back live. But I'll see you guys then and later.